To do here to this church years ago. Beside the modern day missionaries there's a list of who came to the Hawaiian Islands right at first, and it was just a small pioneer band of about 7 missionary couples and a few Hawaiians that came with them. But what inspired them to come? Has anybody heard of a famous Hawaiian that inspired the missionaries to come over? Maybe our leader has heard. She's kind of smiling there. Well, on the side we have a grave rubbing, and it's of a man named Henry Opukahaia. And he was a Hawaiian that jumped on board a sailing ship here and went to New England on the east coast of the United States, and that's where he became a Christian. And he had originally been trained to be a kahuna priest of the Hawaiian faith here in Hawaii, and he was worshiping idols. But he became a radically changed person, and he knew that this was truth, and he had such a desire to come to Hawaii. He wrote about it all the time in his journal, and he was being educated by the president of Yale College, Timothy Dwight, and he had started to learn Greek and Hebrew and was even going to translate some of the Hawaiian scriptures. But sadly, his life was cut short due to typhus fever, and he was only 26 years old. But at his funeral service, they made a call for missions. And the reverend who preached there was Lyman Beecher. He was the father of Harriet Beecher Stowe, who wrote Uncle Tom's Cabin. So there were some real distinguished people around at that time. And there was really a lot of education in New England in those days. And there was only our 5th president of the United States, James Monroe, and it was kind of the time of Pride and Prejudice and some of those Jane Austen novels, so it was way back when. And they sent out this call for missions, who will go and take the place of this man. And in his dying words, he had said, "Oh, how I long to see Hawaii, but I think I never shall. But God will do what is right." And they said he died with this big smile on his face. Well, years later, they actually dug up Henry O's bones and brought him back to Hawaii. And when they dug up the coffin, they found out there was a little window in the coffin right over his face. And I'm just wondering if he had such a great smile that somebody took the care to put a window in there. And there may be a little bit more research coming out about Henry O pretty soon. In May, one of the Hawaii historians, Chris Cook, who's written a lot of books, is publishing a book just on the life of Henry Opukahaia. And he's been in contact with their family, as well as digging up all kinds of old books and documents, and really putting together something more than the memoirs that Henry O had that we've all known the story from. But the memoirs are what Henry was writing in his journals and letters, and one of his friends compiled them into a book that became a bestseller at that time, and it just sold thousands of copies over the 1800s, there, the 19th century. And it helped to really inspire people in a missions movement. So these 14 came out here. They sailed in this boat, the brig Thaddeus, not this particular one, this is just a model, but it almost seems as small because it was only about 85 feet long, and so they were cramped in there, not only with the missionaries but the sailing crew, and they were coming to Hawaii where they didn't know if they'd have a place to stay, because at that time Hawaii was ruled by a strict king, and if he didn't like you in his land, you would have to go somewhere else. And they were sailing 5 months, not knowing if they could really land, so they were really praying. If you thought the 5-hour plane ride maybe from the west coast of USA was long, think about 5 months. So some of the ladies probably got pregnant on the way over, and they just really put up with a lot of hardship to come out here. Their plan B, if they couldn't come and land in Hawaii, was to go down to Tahiti or some of those other islands and be missionaries there, because it wasn't worth it to sail for all those months and not be able to really devote their lives to missions and preach the gospel. So they signed up for life, really, to be missionaries wherever they could. And they came over. As they were sailing, King Kamehameha died, and his son Liho, who is known as Kamehameha II, came into power. But he also had some strong ladies who were with him, the Queen Mother and several queens, because the Hawaiians practiced polygamy, and a lot of the men especially had several wives, but some of the ladies also had several husbands. So there was a big royal kind of family of relatives there. And some of the ladies were kind of upset that they couldn't eat the same foods as the men. Now the men had some really tasty foods. They could eat bananas and pork, but they had a belief system that said some foods are male and some are female. So female trees should only be eaten by females, and male trees should only be eaten by males. But one day they started to question these things, and especially as they saw the sailors coming over. and they realized, hey, they don't believe in the Hawaiian gods as we do, and they're breaking some of their laws, and they're still living, they're not dying. And so this was all part of the crumbling a little bit of the Hawaiian religion at that time.